Hello and a very warm welcome to another classical next conversation. I'm delighted to be talking to somebody I've known for a really very long time. His name is Hervé Boissière, and I've known him through various positions at Erato, Warner Classics, Naive, and then establishing the Naive Classique label. And for the last 12 years, he's been boss of a company he founded and is now managing director of Medici TV. Well, Hervé, welcome. And I'm sorry we've got to join over new technology, but at least we can see each other and talk to each other, if not face to face, as it were.
Hello, James. Very nice to talk to you today. Very nice to see you.
And I suppose I should sort of just first declare an interest to say that every 4 years that Hervé becomes my boss for about a fortnight when I present one of the categories at the Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and that happened again last year. So we kind of I have a little bit of inside knowledge into the Medici TV world. But let's go back a little bit further. I mean, not right back to the beginning of your career, but maybe back to Naive, which was and still is as a wonderful independent record label. I mean, when you established Naive Classique, the classical side of it, I mean, what was the sort of philosophy behind the kind of vision for the label?
The philosophy was really to set up a multi-genre label. The idea was really to be not specialized with a specific repertoire or specific artist policy. It was really the idea to put together great musicians from different origins, from different types of music, and we really try to mix classical, jazz, pop, soundtracks under the same umbrella. The umbrella being Naive, and the idea like a book publisher. You know, the name, the brand of Naive. The goal was to immediately show certain quality, a certain editorial choice, something which was demanding but easy to access at the same time. So we saw that it was the time, you know, it was the end of the 90s. The CD was already in big difficulties, of course, at that time, because the streaming and the piracy was starting and was already very active. But we saw that it was still a slot, a space, and a good time for establishing an independent label, being really driven by this diversity of content, but with the same flavor, with the same idea behind it. And that's what I think we will achieve, because for more than 12, 15 years, that concept has been alive.
And so, in your career at Naive and in your positions before, you know, you obviously got to know a lot of artists, got to know the classical music world, lots of managers, concert halls, all the rest of it. So the jump from a record label to establishing Medici TV, which is a streaming platform for classical music in its various guises. I mean, that wasn't such a huge leap, but what kind of provoked you to come up with the idea? I mean, what sort of drew you towards streamed video?
You know, I think it was for me quite natural to continue and to extend my mission, I would say, you know, because I mean, to work as a record producer, you really share the talent of the artist with the public. And you try to do it as much as possible, by definition, not only for commercial reason, but for obvious necessity for the artist to be understood by the people. You know, that's a real and deep reason to do that job and that business. So I think the media, the format behind to establish that never doesn't really matter for me, because of course I started in this industry with a CD, and then after I saw that if the CD was working less than before or was challenged by new technologies, new habits from the people, I have to jump immediately into the next step, let's say. So for me, it was very natural. And when I saw that YouTube in 2005 was starting with streaming videos, because the technology was enough strong and technically was good for that, I thought, oh my God, it's really a wonderful new area in front of us. We can now really send to the people high quality videos, long form videos, and that's most probably a good idea for the future. And when you see 12 years after how the video became, even before the COVID crisis, because especially in these days, obviously it became something totally central on the market, let's say. But that feeling was this assumption was good, because very rapidly the artists understood that streaming and audiovisual streaming could be a fantastic alternative to the physical and recorded CDs. So it was just a continuation of the same job, the same mission, the same responsibility we have in front of the artist and we have in front of the audiences.
Because to access Medici, I mean, you offer your viewers basically there are sort of two options. You can watch for free a certain amount of content, and then you subscribe and you can dive deep into the archive. I mean, was that something you were very keen to adopt really right from the word go? This sort of two-tier system.
Yeah, I think it was very important for us to establish a freemium model, because to really close and with a paywall from the very beginning was, I mean, first of all, on a real strategic and even political approach, was not my idea, because I think that as a media we have to convince new people, new audience. We have to enlarge the reach of classical music, and especially in these days, that's a real challenge. Of course, when you go to the concert halls, to the operas, you see that the average of the people coming is older and older. So that's really something we have to work on. So for me, the idea of having a freemium was interesting, because automatically when you have access to a free content, it's easier for us to share it more largely. And yeah, it's a mix of the real wish to create a democratization of classical music, and at the same time, especially at that time when we started, it was really the very beginning of video on demand. I mean, for the people, it was almost unknown. People were not really understanding the model behind. So it was very important to invite them to discover and to understand how it was working. And this idea of few content for free, and if you want to go further, if you want to enjoy more, you have a huge library of hundreds and thousands of programs behind the paywall, was at the beginning at that time. So now, of course, Netflix and many huge success stories have been established. But I think it's still a model we use, because we like this idea of having both to offer, and depending on the profile of the people, we try to always have the answer.
You just referred to the COVID crisis. Obviously, we're having this conversation sort of under lockdown, albeit sort of slightly easing. What we've learned is that video has become a day-to-day to our life, and some of the sort of reasons that people may have had, for resisting video have completely evaporated. I mean, nearly everybody takes a Zoom call or a Teams call or whatever, if they're in a working situation, we don't think twice about it. I mean, have you noticed over the last couple of months people changing, in your world, coming to look at Medici TV?
No, we've seen a lot of new big changes, of course, at every level. I mean, first of all, on a market perspective, as you said, I mean, the volume, the offer of videos has been totally enormous. I mean, and very suddenly. I mean, nobody was prepared to have such a huge quantity of new videos available every day, produced every day. And obviously that because of the social media's impact, of course, there was fantastic channels available for the people, especially for the artists who were able to film their performances themselves at home with an iPhone or a smartphone, So it was something, of course, people knew that it was possible and existing, but at that level of offer, nobody anticipated that, frankly speaking. I mean, so on the market perspective, it was a huge surprise to see how much it was immediately proposed to the people. And as you said, it was also something which was totally new in our day-to-day business, because all the people being locked down, etc., working at home, using the video all the time. So it was, in fact, a 24 hours video experience between the videos we were using for the business, for your work, and the videos you were watching for the fun, let's say, or for your pleasure. So it was something totally new. The other big change during that period was also the huge volume of video content delivered for free, which was very new by many big institutions, many prestigious institutions, the Met Opera, orchestras, festivals, concert halls. They saw that it was essential to keep the contact with the people, to keep the relationship with their community. So they suddenly said, okay, I mean, we have these videos, let's put them for free online. And for Medici, of course, it was very disturbing situation, because many of the content they were delivering for free was also available on Medici behind the paywall. So it was a bit confusing for the people when we were saying, hey, subscribe to Medici, because we have a wonderful library with great operas from the Met, from Munich, from London, from Paris, etc. And at the same time, they can find it elsewhere for free. So, I mean, it was a big change, at the end, now, of course, the situation is more, it becomes more stable, let's say, after 2 months, 3 months. Hopefully, the lockdown is less problematic. And we already see that there is a more organized market, because people understood that this free content couldn't be a model on a long-term base, of course. It was absolutely normal. It was a spontaneous reaction, a very generous reaction. So that's absolutely understandable. But at the end of the day, for a concert hall, you cannot at the same time have your box office closed and release for free all your archives and assets, in a way. That doesn't work. It can work for a few weeks, maybe, as we said, but of course, we have to create the new market tomorrow, because that's clear that the business will be different. That's for sure.
Is it a situation that we can actually reverse, do you think, relatively easy? Or is it going to be tough that now people have sort of been, gorging on music, for the last sort of 2.5 months for free? I mean, you could go in the morning, you could watch the Met, in the afternoon, you could watch the Wiener Staatsoper, then you could hop over to the Berlin Staatsoper. I mean, you could be consuming, 3 or 4 operas a day, every day, a different menu. I mean, do you think that's going to be something that we can actually sort of suddenly say, well, actually, guys, music does have a value and it is important? I mean, in my last Classical Next conversation with Clemens Trautmann from Deutsche Grammophon, they as a company, realised that actually the model of basically just handing it all out for free is not sustainable. And ultimately, however starry the artist is, at the end of the day, they do need to make a living.
Of course, no, it's not sustainable, that's for sure. And I'm quite confident about the capacity of the market to come back to a real model very soon. Because at the end of the day, the good news with that huge content and programs available is it was also a fantastic promotion of the streaming experience. It was the best publicity for the people, because there were still a lot of people, who were absolutely used to consume and to watch online via streaming platforms for cinema, for feature films, Netflix and a few others. But for performing arts, it was not so popular. You know, of course, we had digital concert hall, Medici TV, Met Online, etc. There was already for maybe 10 years some good offers, but it was mostly known by the connoisseur, let's say, you know. And with that huge offer, people really understood that in fact there was a real catalog available, a real diversity of programs, a lot of wonderful things, etc. So step by step, I think we'll come back to something which makes sense financially. People understand that it has a value because they understand that to film, to stage, to create the sets, to create the costumes, to create that, to put together hundreds of people together, can be for free like that, you know. And they knew that before it was not the case. I think they really understand that it will come back to something which makes sense in the future. The key question is the timing, of course, of how do we go further, or how do we go out from the COVID situation? Because look what is happening now. I mean, 2-3 weeks ago, nobody was anticipating in some countries such a quick and recovery, if I may say that. You know, look, Austria, Italy, I mean, Salzburg Festival will happen in a way which is significant. Of course, maybe not operas, but they pretend to have 1 month of concerts. I mean, a month ago, it was impossible to imagine that. So, I mean, of course, the summer will be deeply damaged by with all the cancellations of the festivals. But who knows for next season? We know that some operas, some big orchestras will continue to be dramatically reduced and disturbed by that. But it can come back quite quickly with different programming, of course, with people coming to the concert hall differently. So I think that on a long-term basis, we haven't lost the value of the content, the value of the artist, the value of the art. I think we haven't lost that. That's the most important. That was essential to protect that. After the fact that during few months, it has been a bit crazy at every level, I really hope we are stronger than that and more and smarter to be able to combine that transition, that very unique and absolutely incredible step, and then come back to a win-win situation for everybody, because people will always love to go to concert hall, because I mean, recordings will never replace the live experience by definition. People love to be in the hall to listen to their favorite singers or pianists. Pianists and singers need an audience in front of them. We are there to extend the concert halls with our recordings and our streaming strategy. So at the end of the day, this win-win situation will not disappear. We'll adapt, but that won't change at the end.
Do you think opera houses and orchestras, and I'm sure sort of other venues and ensembles, will have, as it were, not learnt a lesson, but suddenly realised that actually it is an enormously important part of their outreach, if to perhaps pick that word, to have video content available? Because, you know, two and a half months ago, I mean, it was amazing how quickly certain organisations just leapt in. And I mean, you know, the Staatsoper in Vienna more or less stuck to its announced schedule, but basically drew on its film archive. And there must be opera houses and concert halls around the world thinking, or orchestras perhaps, thinking actually maybe we should film more of our stuff. Because not only do we want to never be caught like this again, but actually it means that, you know, if we're an orchestra based in Stockholm, all of a sudden, you know, we may have gained a whole slew of audience, you know, in Australia or South America. And actually, this is an important part of what we, an organisation, should be doing. I mean, do you sense there's any of that happened over the last couple of months?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it started already before, frankly speaking, because since it's not maybe 2, 3 years ago, I mean, people really understood that to really enlarge and increase the reach, they had to go. They had to invest into videos. So that was for sure. I mean, we are living in a global world. The globalization is everywhere, every day for everybody. So they can't justify also the financial needs of that very demanding art, because we are talking of an art which is absolutely marvelous and essential, but which is expensive for some reasons, for good reasons. But the reach of the people is a key question, of course, for public institutions, especially when you are asking for public money. You have to deliver some results, let's say, So I think the audiovisual impact and distribution of their work, of their talents, has been well anticipated, understood since years. And obviously the COVID crisis accelerated that very, very strongly, for sure. So yes, you're right. It will encourage people to continue to do more because they will understand that there is another way to promote their work, their specificity, their talents, that it can be used at different levels. So yeah, as I said before, I think for the moment it has been a wonderful promotion of how music can be experienced at all on a screen with visual interactions. And yeah, that will encourage people to do more, to really combine with the performing arts, which is their core business, of course, that won't change. But the media before was very often a complementary investment, or something which was nice for the promotion, for communication. Very often the audiovisual strategy was included in the promotion department, in the communication, the PR, or marketing. And I think now people will understand that it's another part which has to be considered as a real single strategic investment. And especially artistically speaking, because look, many artists have been invited to join spontaneous videos, and you see the result. It's amazing. I mean, we have seen very, very creative videos in the last weeks. Maybe we won't have seen them without that context, because everything would have been discussed in the usual way with production contracts, blah 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 blah, weeks of discussion, etc. And for sure, I mean, so I hope, that's really a hope, that it will last and it will stay as a new key component of the strategy for these people to have a bigger creative offer, in a way.
I get the feeling that there is also a new generation of artists who see video as or perhaps the visual as a sort of very core extension of what they do. I mean, someone like Joyce Di Donato, on Medici, we see her in all sorts of guises, in recital, in opera, giving masterclasses. I mean, do you feel that there are certain artists who just get it and they realise that actually that is part of what they've got to do, and it's part of the sort of ecology that they find themselves in?
No, of course. I mean, the new generation of artists has started with the social media, with the video. I mean, of course, you can't compare the newcomers today with the newcomers 50 years ago, because the world has changed. So automatically, a young pianist or a young conductor today has access, is himself using every day for his personal joy or interest or information. I mean, it's social medias and online information all the day. So automatically, it's totally natural. It's totally evident that he's using that for his work and for his music. So that's clear. After, it's a question of personal wish also, because it's not only a question of generation. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that the young musicians are automatically online and the older are not, because as you can see, there is more mature people extremely active when for some reasons, and I totally respect them because they protect their privacy, or they don't like to be exposed in that way, or they really they are keen to protect the integrity of the repertoire. I mean, they don't like highlights, they don't like, you know, the formats of these videos. So there is many artists who are also not comfortable with that media or social media world. It's fine. We have enough great artists in the world, enough great opportunities to meet music and artists for having some of them very active and proactive, really, and others who are really not interested by that because they prefer to they have a different way of thinking and a way of life, maybe. So, but that's for sure that today nobody can ignore that. It's impossible. If you are not available, not visible on the social media, it's a choice. It's your decision. It's not before, maybe you were not aware of that. You were not, it was something not easy to use. And what is very exciting is that it's changing so quickly because look, Instagram, which is a very influential network, is very new. It's five years ago, you know, so maybe in 10 years, we laugh when we will see our Facebook Live and YouTube and Instagram today, and it will look like really a dinosaur and very prehistoric stuff, because everybody will use a new system, a new media, a new channel. It's totally different. I don't know how and when, but for sure, there is still a lot of invention, a lot of surprise to experience in the future, because it's really moving so quickly that you know, it's really the beginning of a long journey, let's say.
Now, Medici TV is an international platform, and do you find that there's a great sort of difference in the way that certain countries interact with Medici? Whether it's, you know, do they go for different things? Do they expect different things? I mean, do you find you have to sort of do much tailoring by sort of geographical sort of target, as it were?
No, honestly, there is not so much, not so many differences between the territories. Obviously, you still see some slight differences between Japan. That country, these people are very much driven and interested by archives, by great names from the past, or Japanese artists. That's for sure. When at the same time in Latin America, there is a very spontaneous interest for Latin musicians, let's say. And that's true when we have Daniel Barenboim and Marta Argerich. You see Argentina, immediately you see the share of Argentina is really changing totally, because there is a very strong interest from people in Buenos Aires for that concert. But globally speaking, what we see that we have people really passionate, and we measure that with the length per visit. The time per visit is very high. Yesterday I was checking a concert, a chamber music concert. It was 52 minutes for a chamber music average. So that means that you have a lot of people watching all the concert. The concert was lasting, I don't know, it was maybe 80 minutes. The full concert was 80 minutes. The average was 50 minutes, 52 minutes. That's amazing numbers, because that's really people who decide to watch, you know, to listen. They really want to experience this concert. So that's in terms of connection with the people visiting us. It's very positive. It's very encouraging, because we feel that people, first of all, they are happy, because if they stay a long time on the program, apparently they love it. That's a good sign. That's a good news. And second, they are really finding their pleasure, their interest, because there is no they don't switch to a program for another, or like many other video platforms. I mean, the time per visit is like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You know, it's really a zapping, not on Medici. So to answer your question, I don't see so many differences between the people, but I see a very common attitude, which is really a real commitment to the programs, to the artists. And when they come, they really choose to, they take the time to really appreciate and receive the music.
Now, one of the sort of growth areas I've noticed on Medici TV, and this is where our sort of paths cross, is sort of some of the major music competitions. And obviously, you know, Tchaikovsky competition was, well, I mean, that was an enormous thing for you last year. I mean, the figures were absolutely astounding.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tchaikovsky competition has been in 2015, the first time we broadcasted it, has been really a turning point in our history, let's say, or in our 12 years. Because again, when we started in 2007 and 8, it was really the very beginning of streaming. So people were not really understanding the technology. We remember how the technology was weak compared to how it goes now. I mean, how it's fast, how it's easy to use, I mean, everything in the app I mean, when we started, there was almost very few smartphones. So it was only, you could not cast on TV. So, I mean, at that time, 100% of the people were watching Medici, listening to Medici on a computer. So it was a bit weird, you know, of course. Obviously, everything changed now, and everybody's watching and casting from his iPhone with their app on their TV, home cinema, super high quality sound system, etc. So, but in 2015, also because of the evolution of the market and because of it's a kind of Olympic Games for classical music, we've been rapidly known by millions of new people because of this Tchaikovsky competition in 2015. And it's true that it was amazing to see and to experience, you were there, my dear, how much it was impressive to see the numbers every day coming from everywhere in the world, and people watching all day, because Tchaikovsky competition, it's a huge competition. It's not a single instrument, it's 4 instruments at that time. Now it's 6, even 7. And it's a month of competition. So, and from the first day until the finals, and for every instrument, it was a huge success. So 4 years ago, or 5 years ago now, we reached more than 15 million, so altogether, at the end of broadcast. And last year in 2019, we are close to 25 million. So that's really something which is unique, of course, in the industry. And what is great is that it's for new talents, for new people, new artists. And of course, it's wonderful to do millions of people for a superstar of opera. We love that. But it's even better and even more satisfying for us and promising for the future when it's a new talent, most of the time unknown before, because before he gets the first prize, usually, I mean, except the piano teachers and the very few professionals around, I mean, 99% of the audience watching the competition, they don't know the contestants, and they discover the guy, and what is wonderful, they follow him. They accompany him afterwards. So that's very exciting to know, to feel that we have been the first bridge between a young musician who worked so hard for decades alone with his teacher, in his family, in his room, you know, practicing, without any feedback except the teacher or a few friends around. And suddenly, if he has the chance to go to the finals and become the winner of the competition, be visible and in touch with millions of people. So it's really a change of perspective, which is really fascinating. And we've done other competitions in the US or in Asia, And each time we had this feeling, and it's super exciting. And of course, the good news is also that after people are, they remember that, you know, they they don't forget that we have been there beside them to support them at that time, at that key moment, at this historical moment in their new career. And it's wonderful to see that after it facilitates, of course, the follow-up. And when I see with Luca Debar, with Alexandre Kantorov, we work with them many times after the Tchaikovsky, because they are fantastic artists and very talented pianists, but also because we have this special souvenir.
And does the audience translate from the competition audience who watch all the rounds? I mean, do those people move to become subscribers of Medici TV? I mean, is there a good sort of churn onwards?
Yeah, of course, we see after or during the competition. I mean, many people, to be clear, discover Medici at this occasion. So automatically, they see what we do. They see the richness and the diversity of the catalog, because now we have over 2,700 programs with really everything, almost everything, but really from medieval music to Gérard Griset and documentaries, archive masterclasses, really every type of program is available now. There is still fantastic new programs to acquire, of course, and to license and to produce. But I think we really offer the largest and the best catalog these days, and really the critical size is there now. So yeah, of course, during competition, we see a lot of newcomers, of new subscribers, because people just didn't know the platform before. And as I said, they are really passionate people about classical music, because to follow almost a full competition means that you are really involved in music, and automatically they find Medici as something they love to explore.
I mean, when I was sort of doing my homework for this conversation, and I looked up various interviews you've given, I mean, nearly everybody at some point says, "Oh, Medici is the Netflix for classical music," and we've mentioned Netflix ourselves. I mean, is that your kind of? Does that make you feel very happy? Is that a sort of goal to be the go-to place for people who are passionate about classical music?
Well, no, it's nice to read that in a prestigious newspaper like the New York Times, of course. But at the end, is it our goal? I don't know, or I don't think so. Our goal is to continue our mission, to enlarge, develop the company, to really create with Medici the best destination for artists and music lovers. That's really what we are aiming for. And that's very challenging. That's very difficult, especially in these days where there is, as we said, a much bigger offer. And we shall never forget the end consumer, because we shall never forget that people they need something simple, easy to use, quick, fast, effective. And the key question of one of the key, there is others, of course, but there is a key question regarding how do we curate that? How do we aggregate that? Because automatically people won't have the time, or won't love the idea to register, subscribe, give their credit card, their infos, create an account, blah, 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 have a login, etc. with 10, 15, 20 platforms. It's impossible. You want a cab, you have Uber or its competitor, and that's it. And with that app, everywhere you travel, you have a cab in the next 5 minutes, or for etc. You know what I mean. So there is, because people are just looking for the most effective, safe, secure service. I mean, I also expect when I order a train ticket online to have something which is very, very well conceived by the people behind the screen, in order to make my experience extremely sweet. That's it. So of course, for classical music and for performing arts, there is a key question of how do we curate, aggregate, how do we put that together? And especially with the after COVID effect, we'll see that many concert halls will move to ticketing online. Of course, I mean, as they won't be able to have their usual ticketing box office with physical people sitting in the hall, they will automatically feel much more and ask after this free window and period, as we said, they will automatically try to create a new business model with live streaming, orchestras or small people, so small bands, small orchestras, and artists on stage, and people watching online the performance. And they will ask for money for that. And it's difficult, I think, for them to ask for a subscription, because a subscription automatically means that there is a huge catalog. There is really a deep and large offer. Netflix have thousands of, so if you are a concert hall, first of all, it's very insecure today. The visibility we have of what they can do is very uncertain. I mean, it's improving every day, thanks God, but it's difficult to create a real season. I mean, maybe in September it will be easier, and in January for sure. I really think that January will be a big step in how we rebuild something. But until the end of the year, it's still very complicated, let's say. But that's for sure that they will all try to set up a new offer, a digital offer with a ticketing, a pay-per-view, which is totally logical. So, which is great. But how do the people will experience that if they have to create their own account, their own credit card, their own 10 times, 15 times, 20 times? Because classical music is by definition totally global. You don't care about the origin of the concert or the concert hall or the nationality. You care about the content. Okay, if it's in a nice hall like a Carnegie Hall, it's nice to see a beautiful historic hall in New York. But what you are looking for is the pianist playing. And it can be in another hall in London or another hall in Tokyo. That's not the point. But behind there is very different organizations, of course. So that's really something, I mean, we are, of course, working on that. How can we help the network of institutions, of music, performing arts institutions, how we can be their partner to organize something which is accelerating their outreach and helping them to sell more tickets, because we are already established as a platform, and to come back to your question, Netflix, where people know that that's a place to be, that's a kind of a one-stop shop,
So that could be a sort of aggregator role where you basically become the sort of the stage, the shop window, perhaps for all sorts of organisations. So, I mean, let's finish up. I mean, what are your sort of immediate ambitions for Medici TV? I mean, we've been through unprecedented times, but actually yours is one of the few businesses that can sort of carry on more or less, unaffected, because, by its very nature, people don't actually have to come up to you, so you can carry on. So what would 2021, 2022 in an ideal world see for you?
I think really the content. I mean, how we can take the benefits of this very incredible and creative, again, period we just experienced, because many people commented the COVID crisis as potentially a poor opportunity of content. People at home filming. Okay, there was a lot of people at home filming themselves, but there was also a lot of people taking risks like they never did before. Formats different. So I really hope that we can take advantage or take the brainstorm and really get the benefits of this crazy time, and how it can influence in a new way the format, the content. I mean, the format of the concert, the presentation of the concert. Because for me, it has been always strange and even odd, that what we are streaming is exactly what is happening on stage. It makes sense, of course, because at the beginning, I mean, the source The material we record and we broadcast, by definition, is the same. But it's a bit weird to see that at the end, the order of the program, for instance, the overture, the concerto, and the symphony, which at the end is put together in the same video, in the same program, stays online like that. Because, I mean, what is the relationship between the Mendelssohn Overture, a Chopin Concerto, and the Bruckner Symphony? If people are online, they are on demand. And when we see in our data how people watch the concerts, watch the programs, look for the content, search, etc., they automatically look for they work by title, not by concert, not by event. No, people are looking for that symphony of Beethoven, that Chopin concerto, and they don't care about what is happening before and after. I sincerely hope that with that revolution, let's say, we can move forward in inventing new formats, in being more free between what can be done in the concert hall and what can be done online. How we can create enriched content, how we can be more creative in terms of combine the people, how we can make it more easy to understand, how we can be more accessible. I mean, that kind of stuff. And I really hope and I really believe, and we'll be very proactive, we'll work a lot on that at Medici, that there is a new momentum for that. I really think that there is a generation gap around. We don't really know. We see very great examples which prove that it's really possible to change it or to avoid it. I mean, for instance, in Paris, we have a huge success with La Philharmonie de Paris, the new concert halls. In 5 years, they are sold out all the time. And when you see the audience in that concert hall, it's like 10, 15, or even 20 years younger than in many, many concert halls in the world. It's amazing. The job they did, bravo, guys. Bravo, congrats. I mean, in 5 years, they've been able to just prove again that classical music can be totally exciting for everybody, even the new people, the young people, people who have no education. Because the switch is really that one. Now we are talking to a generation which had no education like before, because before, for a certain type of social types and categories of people, etc., classical music was automatically in the house. There was always around somebody who had himself a classical music experience. Now, the new generation, no, we start to have people, they never have around somebody who has himself a classical music experience. So that's a big switch. And the format we present this music is one of the key. It's not the key. I'm a huge fan of a full recital of Chopin preludes, and that's it. That's absolutely perfect. I love that, etc. But is it the case for everybody? That's the question we have to solve. And I'm really convinced that there is the place for both. I think there is something very, very exciting for the future, and will help to create new audiences and a new generation of people passionate about music. Because each time people have access, have a contact, the beauty, the power, the genius of classical music is so strong that it works all the time. it's absolutely, there is 100% of results. I mean, the human effect of classical music, if it's well performed, there is no question about that. But you need the contact. No contact, no emotion, no business. That's for sure. And I think that's positive. What can happen from what we've seen, because that was really new experiences we never saw before, and I think was not possible to create before.
Hervé, thank you so much. That's a nice optimistic note to end on, and thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you so much, James. It was a great pleasure to chat with you, and thank you so much for your amazing commitment to classical music since ever.
Thank you. And speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.